Tim Jonathan McCoran is an accountant in Manhattan. Late one night while working on an audit of the law firm, he is greeted by a charismatic lawyer named Wyatt Bowes. Wyatt was very friendly and inspirational. The men had deep conversations into the evening, as they learned more about each other. Taking the subway home, Jonathan has a brief encounter with a blonde woman. Jonathan is really into her as he thinks she is very pretty. He notices that her puja has a letter S. Since he didn't ask for her name, he only referred to her as S. Since she talked to him, Jonathan was very nervous. All he could do was watch her from afar. Jonathan looked at S and could not keep his eyes off her. Arriving home, Jonathan's life is really miserable. He watches TV and keeps thinking about the girl he met today. He also notices the pipe in his bedroom is leaking and leaving a stain. Early at work the next day, Jonathan and Wyatt become good buddies. Wyatt asked if Jonathan was doing anything after work, in which Jonathan replied no, so Wyatt invited Jonathan to go after work with him. They played tennis together and Wyatt showed off his girlfriend. Wyatt takes Jonathan home, and Jonathan is surprised that Wyatt has such a huge penthouse. They both went to a club, and upon arriving home, Jonathan saw Wyatt with a different female. Later at work, Jonathan is bored with more paperwork. Wyatt invited Jonathan out to talk before leaving. Wyatt has business in London for the next few weeks, so he asks for Jonathan's phone number. While leaving, Wyatt mistakenly switches cell phones with Jonathan. Jonathan received a call on Wyatt's phone from a woman who asks if he is free that night. Jonathan says yes and tries to explain that it is not his phone, but the female hung up. He arrives at the hotel bar and saw an older woman, thinking it was her, but another really pretty blonde woman turned and walked toward Jonathan. She asked if he was Wyatt and he said yes. She walked him up to her room and started undressing. Jonathan thought she was maybe one of Wyatt's girlfriends and could give him the phone, but the female one did not allow Jonathan to talk and she started coming hard at Jonathan. She undresses Jonathan and Jonathan was too lost for words and was too anxious, so he just kept his mouth shut and they make love without clothes on. When Jonathan woke up, she had already left. Wyatt calls Jonathan the next day and told Jonathan that he is in an exclusive club for mating. And Jonathan is free to use the phone to call as he likes until Wyatt gets back from London. Jonathan made a phone call to hook up but was surprised it was with an older woman. Jonathan find out from the woman that in this club that they should be very less conversation, more mating. She explains the rules. The initiator pays for the room, no names are exchanged, there is no dirty play. Over the next few weeks, Jonathan has anonymous encounters with several beautiful females. Each called varies as the women he encounters are random in ages, class and nationality, but they are all beautiful. Jonathan also has a confidence boost and other women can see it in him. The old woman Jonathan bonded was in Forbes magazine. Jonathan is shocked one evening to find that his latest encounter is the blonde woman from the subway, when they went upstairs and started to undress, but Jonathan refused and asked her if they could engage in something else. Something that all men love even more, and so the two of them have a conversation. They talk passionately and share a happy moment together. Jonathan was so happy he stayed up and watched her sleeping until he started to fall asleep. Jonathan woke up and S was gone. She left him a very nice note. Jonathan blocks other callers, responding only when he gets a new call from S. Once again spend hours together going out on a date, living the life of a Korean drama. Then they went to a hotel room. They spent more time talking so much as got thirsty for water. Jonathan went to get ice from the machine. Jonathan returns from getting ice and notices something was strange. Jonathan finds that S is missing with blood on the bed sheets. Someone knocks him out and when he wakes up the room is in order. There is no blood on the bed sheets. Jonathan freaks out, runs downstairs and calls the police, but his story makes the officers think that he is delusional. At home, Jonathan noticed things in his house was moved around. Jonathan looks for Wyatt, but his law firm doesn't know him. No one recognizes his name. Wyatt's business card and a female is living in what Jonathan thought was Wyatt's apartment. While returning home, Jonathan is surprised to find Wyatt is waiting in his apartment. Wyatt holds Jonathan at gunpoint. Wyatt is holding S somewhere and will kill her unless Jonathan takes $20 million from an investment firm he will be auditing. He said wire transfer the funds in Jonathan's name to an account in Spain. Jonathan received a voicemail on Wyatt's cell phone from Tina, who seems to know Wyatt personally. Jonathan goes to her hotel room where she reveals that Wyatt's real name is Jamie Getz, and they met at a party hosted by the wealthy Rudolph Holloway. Jonathan Googles Getz, learning that he is wanted for killing Holloway. Wyatt calls to check up on Jonathan, but Jonathan reveals that he knows everything about Wyatt. Surprising, Wyatt has been in the hotel room across from Jonathan the whole time. The police called Jonathan in to show Jonathan a recent murder. He recognized the woman was the very first one he met at the hotel room but denied ever meeting the woman. At home, Jonathan finds pictures of him and the dead woman. Wyatt plans to blackmail Jonathan for murder at the audit. Jonathan completes the wire transfer. Jonathan pretends to audit, but he is actually following Wyatt's instructions on how to take the money and wire it to an account. In Spain. Wyatt texts a picture of that S tied up in Jonathan's apartment, wishing them well. Just as he arrives at his apartment, Jonathan notices that the picture was taken before the pipe started leaking. He realizes that S is Wyatt's accomplice. Then his apartment suddenly explodes, witnessed by Wyatt from across the street. Wyatt, traveling on a passport in Jonathan's name, meets S in a hotel in Madrid. She's upset that Jonathan is dead. But he reminds her that her $1 million share is more than she ever made as a prostitute on the street. It turns out that she'd been working with Wyatt the whole time. The both of them made out, but she is unhappy with Wyatt as he is only using her for personal gain. They both went to the bank. He introduces himself as Jonathan. She is not allowed to enter. When he attempts to withdraw the funds, he learns that the cosigner reviewz must be present. Wyatt leaves the bank to find S gone and Jonathan waiting. The apartment superintendent died in the explosion, entering the suite just moments before Jonathan arrived. Jonathan has obtained a passport using Wyatt's name. He demands half of the $20 million. Leaving the bank, Jonathan offers $5 million to tell him where S is. Wyatt agrees, then leads Jonathan to a quiet park and pulls a gun. Before he can shoot, Wyatt is shot by S. Jonathan pursues her, leaving a dead Wyatt and all the money behind. She apologizes to him and leaves in a cab in tears. Jonathan stays in Madrid. The movie ends.